Greetings, fellow travelers. This is my podcast, Not Super, but Human. My name's Will, and I'll be your guide. This is where we'll explore what it means to follow the path of the hero's journey towards finding a sense of purpose in our lives. We'll also explore what it means to find a sense of meaning as the everyday hero. Hello, welcome to the pilot episode of my podcast, Not Super, but Human. Here we'll explore what it means to follow the path of the hero's journey towards finding a sense of purpose in our lives. A little about myself. My name is Will Newman. I am a licensed alcohol and drug counselor, and I am currently going to school for my master's in clinical mental health counseling. Forgive me, I was coughing a lot recently, and so my throat is a little hoarse. I do apologize. Um, so part of my master's program, uh, we have to do a capstone, and so it's a project, a research project, and it takes the place of a thesis. So essentially, if you're planning on continuing after your master's and going into like a PhD program, you do a thesis. If you're planning on doing your master's, be like, you know what? I think I'm good. You do a capstone. Um, and I'm like, you know what? I think I'm good. So I chose to do a capstone. Now, I had an incredibly tough time deciding what to do for my capstone. I was diagnosed very late in life with ADHD, and I wish I was diagnosed much sooner because I found out way too late that it is so hard to get me engaged in like reading and writing things that I'm not as interested in. So it was a chore to try to determine something that I would be interested enough in to put that that much research in to to be able to do a significant enough research paper on. And so it almost felt pretty overwhelming to come up with the topic for my capstone to graduate with my master's. Um, but a while back, I did attend a conference for addiction professionals, and one of the seminars I had attended was regarding utilizing the framework of the hero's journey for individuals in substance use treatment. And in this conference, these individuals, there were a couple of guys that I believe they ran uh, their treatment center, or I think they might have worked two different ones. I don't. I'm not certain. It's not important. What is important is they were very passionate about working with the individuals they work with in recovery through the framework of the hero's journey. And when they were presenting the information, they did it with such passion, and they shared the examples and described the different stages of the hero's journey using Star Wars. And I don't know, you might see some of these books behind me. I love Star Wars. I love superheroes, DC, Marvel, anime, you name it. Huge nerd. It, again, you see all the stuff behind me. If you're seeing the video version of this podcast, it struck a chord because it was I do love what I do. Counseling and you know hero culture and nerd culture is something that is a very strong passion of mine. And what these guys did is they struck a chord with me, combining these two things. And so ever since then, that's what I chose that I was going to do for my capstone, was utilizing the framework of the hero's journey in narrative therapy for substance use treatment. And in studying that topic for clinical mental health counseling, um I think it goes beyond just mental health counseling. But I I'm not speaking to here in the capacity as a therapist, because I am not a therapist yet, and also I am. This is not a form of therapy. I'm just that's a disclaimer right now. Um, yeah, it started as a passion, and um, now it is something that I truly believe in, the benefits of, and something I really would like to share. I I utilized it myself, the journaling through the different stages of the hero's journey, towards understanding, processing through recent events that really left me floored, and mm, that I struggled with more than I have in the past. And utilizing this as a journaling tool really helped me to understand and cope with what I've had going on. And so, like I said, it is something that I really do just want to share with others. So why is this relevant? Well, the hero's journey is really an inspiring narrative, and to know why that is, I guess you really got to understand what it is. I've been saying the hero's journey, the hero's journey. Well, what is the hero's journey? Well, I'll tell you. It's the hero's journey was come up with by a man named Joseph Campbell, and Joseph Campbell came up with what was called the monomyth in the 1940s through his study of world mythology. And what he found was that a lot of myth and stories about heroes from all around the world follows the same narrative framework. And that framework starts with the hero living their normal everyday life where everything's status quo. They don't yet know what's beyond the boundaries of their world that they're aware of. And then they experience this call to adventure. And this call to adventure is something that really just kind of shakes their existence. And they can't ignore it. But what does happen sometimes is sometimes they try to they may refuse this call to adventure, or they may be reluctant to accept it. That is a common theme. But now, reluctant or accepting of it, the theme is, regardless, the hero takes up the journey. And in taking up the journey, the hero crosses a threshold, meets a mentor. And this mentor is often a magical, you know uh, like guardian, guide, mythical creature, supporting, protecting the hero on their journey. When they cross the threshold, they go beyond the boundary of the world that they've known into the great beyond, the unknown, and they face their trials. And through those trials, they gain their strength, their skills, their knowledge, and they may even face their greatest trial where they look into the abyss, where they make that decision whether to turn back or push forward. And through accomplishing and conquering their trials, they receive their boon, their great boon, their reward. And in doing so, they return home with their reward. They return the gift home and share it with those at home. This is so relevant today because so oftentimes, we live in the problem. In narrative therapy, let's say we live in our narrative, the story we craft for ourselves is problem saturated. We live in the problem, and our existence is defined by the problem that we experience. We live in it. Everything surrounds it. It encompasses everything. And the goal is to rewrite the narrative, rewrite our story so that it doesn't focus on the problem, so that the problem doesn't control or dictate us anymore. But now the hero's journey then becomes that vehicle to be able to do so. Sorry. In doing so, using the narrative framework of the hero's journey, the individual is able to put themselves into the role of the hero within their own story. It's about strength. It's about identifying, hey, in my own story, I am the hero. I am the main character in my own story, just like anyone else is the main character in theirs, and I can accomplish the trials put before me. I can take this call to adventure, and I can find the courage in me to cross this threshold, and I can learn from those around me, and in facing my trials, getting through my abyss, I can come out of it changed and get transformed and return to the world I know and share it with those around me. And I just feel that's incredibly powerful. You you have seen examples of the hero's journey everywhere around you. Star Wars, as I've mentioned, various superhero movies, obviously, and even a ton of Disney movies follow the framework of the hero's journey. Moana, Frozen, The Lion King, Mulan, to just name a few. Um, these all follow the framework of the hero's journey. You just don't know it. Some that may feel a little more rooted in reality. The Pursuit of Happiness, Secret Life of Walter Mitty, personal favorite of mine, follow the framework of the hero's journey. This framework is still followed in popular culture because it works, because it's inspiring, because there is just something about watching someone go from the remarkably mundane simply to the remarkable. We crave that. And that is something we can achieve just by finding a sense of strength in how we define ourselves, how we accept, that identity as the hero. Um, Overcoming the senses of helplessness, in our present situation. So, this podcast, um, it's, I guess, a disclaimer. I'm very new to podcasting, and if you've made it this far in the episode, I'm certain it is very clear that that is in fact the case. And but this is part of my hero's journey. My personal hero's journey is getting myself to do this and sharing this with all of you, and and breaking out of my comfort zone to be able to do this. And I hope to get better at it as I go. It only took me about 20 start and stops to get to the point that I could just start rolling with it. Um, my goal with this series is to be able to go through the different stages of the hero's journey in detail, talk about them, what they look like, and what they really look like in the modern world, and what they would look like for anyone, for you, and eh, give examples in pop culture, and end with the idea of the everyday hero, and what does that look like, because it is an achievable thing for everybody, because the idea of the superhero, eh, there is no superpowers, there's no superhuman, just we're just human. But there's something beautiful in that, and I think accepting that and finding what we can do, um, and finding empowerment in what we are capable of, mm, is something I would like to be able to work on, and also just for myself too. And so, not every episode is just going to be focused on describing a step of the hero's journey. Sometimes I might just talk about, different characters within pop culture and break down like how they fit into the hero's journey, or how I might apply to them to different themes. Like I can't wait to talk about Zenitsu from Demon Slayer and how his fear and overcoming that. Just an example. Anyway, I'm rambling at this point. You get the idea. My point is, I'm not going to be rushing through this. Um, anyway, I hope you've at least enjoyed this a bit. Um, Again, my name's Will. This is my podcast. Not super, but human. Thank you very much.